Hello, and welcome to a new edition of H.E.L Explains with your host, Dr. Mario Torres Rodrigo. And today we're going to be discussing the top 5 factors or traits that a battery needs to have in order to be considered a good battery. We live in a power-hungry society. Since the 18th century that we had the Industrial Revolution, the need for a constant and powerful supply of energy has only increased. One way to achieve this is having stored in devices that we call batteries or cells. The situation hasn't changed much since Galvani and Volta designed the first batteries. However, because we are moving towards a greener and more sustainable society, we have a very pressuring demand to have better batteries that last longer, that they're able to supply better energy, and they're going to be safe. Also, these batteries need to be rechargeable because we know that single-use batteries are incredibly polluting, and as I said before, if we are moving towards a greener society, this is completely unacceptable. So then this asks for the question, what makes a battery good? So let's jump into it and discuss different factors that are going to determine whether we have a good battery or not. And obviously, the first one, it is a long cycle life. What does this mean? Batteries, rechargeable batteries, they have to go through cycles of charging and discharging. However, over time, the capacity that the battery is going to have to reach out to the maximum temperature is going to decrease. This is because of the own aging process of the battery. So how do we determine when a battery has a good long life cycle? We normally fix this value at an 80%. This means that the battery needs to be able to be recharged up to the 80% of the original capacity that the battery had. The second one is going to be a high efficiency. Efficiency is the parameter that tells us how much power is actually being released from the movement of electrons from one of the electrodes to the other one. This value is decreased because sometimes this energy is lost to the environment. For example, if the battery heats up because there is some kind of internal resistance. With the most common batteries that we have nowadays, lithium-ion batteries, this is a very high value. We are talking about at least a 98%. So this is kind of the gold standard of the high efficiency that batteries need to have. The third trait that we need to regard when we're trying to find this ideal battery is going to be a high energy density. Energy density is the amount of energy that a device or a substance can't hold by unit of mass. We know that we have limitations in space. So, for example, in a phone, we know that the battery needs to be fitting here. In a laptop, it needs to be fitting underneath. And they cannot be very bulky or very heavy because that would defeat the point of having a portable device. However, this comes with a downside as well, because the more energy that a battery can hold, the higher the danger of battery failures become. The fourth factor that we need to analyze when we are trying to design this perfect battery is safety. Batteries are devices that are designed to release energy in a controlled manner. However, due to certain scenarios, this battery can actually release the energy in an uncontrolled manner. And when this happens, things can get hairy very quickly. So, for example, if we have our battery that is functioning and because there is an increase in temperature because, for example, the internal resistance of the battery has gone up, or we have a short circuit, then the battery can start heating up. The components of the battery are susceptible to decomposition. This means that they can break down into smaller molecules, and in this process there is even more energy being released. So we end up having this positive feedback loop that we call a thermal runaway. We have discussed this many times in blogs and videos, so please feel free to check it out. And finally, I would say that the last thing that we also need to think about is that the battery needs to perform well. That's what a battery needs to do. It needs to be able to operate. However, we know for a fact that temperatures are going to have a lower performance if we move to a lower temperature range or a higher temperature range, far from ideal. So we need to be able to analyze how the battery is going to react to these extreme conditions, and we need to determine where these safe limits are, so then we know that our battery is going to function on these conditions. And we can also try to put strategies around our batteries to avoid them from failing under these extreme conditions. So for example, if it's playing with lower temperatures in which, for example, the electrolyte can freeze and therefore the battery stops working, then maybe we want to put some kind of insulation that is going to prevent this from happening, or find a way to warm up the battery so it doesn't go there. And also on the opposite side, if we have very high temperatures, we have seen before that our battery can go into thermal runaway, so we would need to design mechanisms that are going to dissipate heat, or they are going to cool the battery, so we prevent this from happening. So now we know that creating the perfect battery is not an easy task. It requires us to investigate in different fields and try to find a bunch of different factors that are going to determine that our battery is going to perform well. We want our battery to be able to charge and discharge for a very long time without losing its maximum capacity, but also we want it to be able to accumulate a large amount of energy so our devices can be powered for a long time without having to recharge them again. But this links to safety, because obviously the large amount of energy that we are storing can be released in an uncontrollable manner, resulting in potential thermal runaways and potential risks that we want to avoid. Also, we want the battery to be able to deliver this energy from the battery to the device without losing a lot of it on the way because of internal resistance, with potential accumulation of heat that, as I said, can also end up being in a thermal runaway. And finally, we want our battery to be able to operate in a wide range of conditions, because we know for a fact that ideal conditions are not going to happen all the time. We can be out in a desert with an electric car, and we don't want our car to just start a fire because the battery has gone too hot. So this is all from me. My name is Dr. Mario Torres Rodrigo, and I am the applications leader here at H.E.L. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please come and talk to us. Thank you very much.